Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Everybody, welcome aboard another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you for joining us, no matter where or how you're listening, whether it's on one of our great radio station affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, The Ref, always the right call, down in Evansville, 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM, the voice of the region, if in the region, on WJOB, and of course, in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan. Keep it locked where you got it all day, no matter where you're going. You've got it in the right place. If you're following along on social media, like button, subscribe button, all that good stuff. Appreciate you so much. Welcome aboard. You've made it halfway through the week already, through game week, week 1 of the college football season. We're in week 2 of the high school season already. We'll talk to Kyle Neddenriep about that. Dylan Sinn will join us as well. We'll get you caught up and what to expect this weekend as the college football season really kicks off. Not going to count last week. We keep having that discussion, but appreciate you for being with us. And boy, Fulton's going to have to understand that when we're doing the show, you can't call. But appreciate everybody, like I said. And yesterday, it kicked off oh, daggone it. The link for the college pick'em. And we kind of had for the few of you that went up in there and did that, we need to change that to a different one because we didn't have the right one selected. It's go back to just the group is ISB Radio. And the password is the same, Cignetti 2025. But just go to the college pick'em under the fantasy tab and make your selections. And you can make your selections weighted on how much confidence you have in it. So it should be a little bit more fun this year. Looking forward to that. I'm pretty certain everybody's got Indiana picked to win this week, but they're not on the list when I saw it. Texas. Ohio State. Look forward to talking. I'll talk to Dylan about that one. That should be boy, you want to talk about kicking off the college football season. That is the way to do it, baby. Man, you put your eggs in a big basket. But see, those teams both know that they're ranked high. They lose that game. It doesn't matter. It will have very little effect on their season, to be honest with you, because they can lose and just come back and win later. They're not going to keep the big boys out of the party. They just aren't going to do it. Wouldn't do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture. The Bison will make his first appearance this weekend for Indiana. It's part of the game day experience. If that I don't know who that really matters to. Kids, probably, mainly. Other than that, I have no problem with the Bison. It's very attached to the state of Indiana, although most people in and out of the state of Indiana do not know that. It's hard enough. You're always explaining, so what's a Hoosier? Now you're going to have to explain, so what's a Hoosier and what the hell does a Bison have to do with it? You got that going for you. Indiana University Bloomington's new official mascot, Hoosier the Bison, will make its first public appearance during the pregame Marching 100 show Saturday. After reintroducing himself to Hoosier fans before the opening kickoff, Hoosier will roam in and around the stadium for the remainder of the game. Fans are encouraged to enter the stadium as early as possible. Gates open at 1. Merchants Bank Field at Memorial Stadium. In addition to new arrival, the Bison fans will also see new signage on the field to recognize the new partnership between Merchants Bank and IU Athletics. Of course, last week, IU announced a 20-year, $50 million agreement with Merchants Bank that includes naming rights for the Memorial Stadium playing surface. As a component of that agreement, Merchants Bank will also be providing IU student-athletes with comprehensive and complimentary financial literacy training to help them maximize their opportunities in the new world of intercollegiate athletics. Not a bad deal there. Good to see that. So, some of the game day experience Hoosier fans can take advantage of, a series of VIP opportunities that offer on-field, behind-the-scenes, and special recognition during each of the 7 home games this season. Hoosier pregame pass, register to get a behind-the-scenes, up-close look at IU football on game day. Each member of your group will receive a special pregame credential, and you will tour the IU football meeting rooms and training facility, watch pregame warm-ups from the field level, get a group photo of the Merchants Bank Field down there, commemorate your first IU game with a special IU gift bag. See who's your birthday. Let the first IU game experience celebrate your birthday in style. Shoot the t-shirt launcher. That'd be kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't mind loading that sucker up and bam, 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 firing that thing off. Let's see. B-Town Boulevard will be back once again out there on the South Lawn. The walk time has changed. Indiana football's pregame tradition, the walk, will now take place a full 2 hours and 25 minutes before kickoff. Just a 10-minute change from past years. On Saturday, fans can look forward to beginning at 12:05 for the first season opener. Indiana football players, coaches, and the Spirit Squad, I love that name, Spirit Squad, will once again congregate on the west side of Simon Scott Assembly Hall and then make that procession. New pre-purchase on-campus auxiliary purchase options are also available. While all IU Athletic Complex parking is sold out for this season, there are a series of convenient on-campus parking opportunities that are all within 1 mile of Memorial Stadium that fans can now purchase for $50 a game. So you got that going for you. Let's see, your rally towels. They're going to be heading those out. The East Side Club. This is a new premium seating and game day experience space. It's officially open for the 25 season. The East Side Club ticket holders will enjoy premium seat locations between the 35-yard lines and new mesh seat backs, along with the opportunity to request to upgrade their ticket to include to a dedicated indoor lounge that features complimentary drinks and snacks. I'll be darned. I wasn't aware of that. The Corner Suites. This season will also feature the debut of 2 new Memorial Stadium corner suites in the northwest and southwest corners of the stadium, located where the stadium's old flower gardens were. These new suites will offer spacious seating and edge of the field viewing opportunities for suite visitors. Both suites have already been purchased for the duration of the 2025 season. And then special events set up for next week. IU football will host Youth Sports Day and Hoosier Bison Buddies Club Day on September 6th in conjunction with the Kennesaw State Day. So we'll talk more about that later. But glad to have you along. Got all that out of the way, man. If you know who Ray Haroon is, you're a Hoosier. There you go. Okay. Brent's got his picks in. Yeah, make sure if you're doing the pick'ems, though, that you have to go back and redo it because it was not the one that I gave you yesterday. It's the one up on the screen now. You just go to ESPN.com, college pick'em, go to ISB Radio, and the password is Cignetti 2025. Let's see. Jason says, did you guys see the Old Dominion coach say he was worried about Knotho Park? No, I did not, but I don't know what the hell he's talking about. That's been a minute. The old Knotho gang. There you go. A Hoosier is the sound a bison makes during mating. Very possible. Live bison? No, that won't be the case. No live bison. It's no Colorado, even though they, of all things, Colorado, a Western state, uses the wrong name. They call it a buffalo. So you got that going. And looking forward to Dylan Sinn joining us here on the program today. Cal Neddenriep, as we'll get you ready for this weekend. Plenty going on, like I said. Of course, nothing bigger than this week's college game day, week 1. And don't forget Lee Corso making his final appearance on college game day this weekend, as he is at the Ohio State, Texas game. Pete Thamel, ESPN's Pete Thamel. Have you noticed no one is picking Indiana for the college football playoffs, which I shouldn't be surprised because that's how it's been. But one season removed from making the first ever 12-team college football playoff, Indiana heads into the 2025 season with expectations to do the same, but doesn't seem to be that way for those picking it. But Pete Thamel says, I am going to take Indiana with my final pick. Indiana went 11-2 last year, of course, with its 2 losses coming to national champion Ohio State and runner-up Notre Dame. I don't see why anyone's not taking Indiana, other than they do have a tough schedule. I can see taking Illinois because they have easiest schedule. A schedule that is way easier than what Indiana had last year, because last year Indiana had the 2 teams that played prior in the national championship and the 2 that would play in last year's. That's not the case for Illinois. I don't care that they have a P4 game against Duke. Who cares? Really? They have 2 ranked teams on their schedule for out of 12 games. But no one's giving the Illinois grief. So it is what it is. You just got to win, man. You just got to win. You know how you shut people up? You win. Winning cures everything. I say it all the time. That's how you shut people up. You play. You win. You do what you need to do. As far as I know, the coach's show is at Hoosier Hanks. Jason says he's still waiting for where and when the coach's show will be. Can't get a hold of Hoosier Hanks. Well, I believe it is this Thursday at 7. I will send a text out and find out for certain in the break, but pretty positive that is the case. But I'll double check that for you guys. Hope everybody's doing well. And we'll go ahead and hit our first break. When we come back, our buddy Dylan Sinn should be joining us. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Glad to have you on this Wednesday. You made it halfway, baby. Back with more right after these messages from your favorite and my favorite sponsors as well.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum, Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. On this Wednesday, you have made it to the halfway point, and Dylan Sinn joins us from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. And as I had promised, I did some checking in between. The Coaches Show is tomorrow, 7 p.m. at Hoosier Hanks. So there you go. It's set up. Dylan Sinn, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on, as always, Jim.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, brother. It's always a pleasure. How was your weekend?
It was good. We are deep into college football preview season right now, so I've been putting together previews for the Journal-Gazette. We had Purdue come out today. We'll have Ball State and IU coming tomorrow, and then Notre Dame on Thursday, or on Friday. So we're in good shape.
Looking forward to that. As who does Notre Dame open with?
Miami in Miami.
Yeah.
So yeah, that game's on Sunday.
It doesn't matter.
So.
It doesn't matter. They could play the Sisters of the Poor and lose this game, and it wouldn't matter because they lost to Northern Illinois at home last year, and so losing to Miami won't affect them. Just like the Texas-Ohio State game will have very little to no bearing on the CFP playoffs either. You can lose that game and it won't matter. It's at the beginning of the year. They played against Arch Manning. Well, how would you expect them not to lose? But I was just talking actually, nobody is picking Indiana to do anything, which not surprised, but Pete Thamel is taking Indiana to come back to the college football playoffs. And he said it's because of quarterback play, which is a reason why I'm a little surprised more people haven't. You've got Mel Kiper Jr., who has talked about Fernando Mendoza as being not either the top or one of the top quarterbacks taken in the next NFL draft, but yet Indiana, they act like Indiana, they only have a preseason All-American at receiver, and they only added an All Big Ten running back, and they only added Pat Coogan from Notre Dame, and then they have those 3 All-Americans on defense, but they'll probably that's not much. So it cracks me up. Is there something to do with that name on the front of the chest?
Yeah, I think so. I do think that it is important to point out that Fernando Mendoza is indeed kind of a darling of the NFL draft intelligentsia. The people who kind of crunch the film with the quarterbacks. I did a bunch of research yesterday for a story that I'm writing on Fernando. And I think ESPN, one of their draft analysts, gave him the 5th best odds of going number 1 overall next year. Now the other 4 are all quarterbacks as well. So he has some guys he needs to leap over. But basically what one scout said was that he's really impressed with his tools and his film. And what he wants to see is more plays from the pocket. right? Like what they saw at Cal was that he can really make plays out of structure. He can make throws on the run. What they want him to see, what they want to see is more patience, right? And what happened last year was that he was getting sacked so often that there were times
He had to run. He didn't have a choice.
Right. But what happened was that he was getting sacked so much that he would end up breaking from clean pockets before he had to. It was kind of end up becoming a habit. And so they want to see, hey, can you fix that this offseason? And can Indiana's line give him a chance to kind of just stand in there and surgically dissect the defense? Because that's the missing piece for him in terms of his NFL evaluation. And so if he does that, there's a good chance that he rises up draft boards very, very quickly and ends up going very high in the draft next year. But that is what they want to see from him this season at IU is stand in the pocket, survey the field, and run the offense the way that it's supposed to be run without having to. And I think it's going to be interesting to see whether he can put that together.
Yeah, and that reminds me of back when Lamar Jackson was a quarterback at Louisville. Bobby Petrino got him to the point to where he would stay in the pocket, and look what he's doing now today in the NFL. He is a thrower, a runner second, and yeah, I can see the bad habits that would force you into getting sacked 41 times. That probably puts the fear of God into your. Anytime you hear a footstep, you're like, oh hell, here they come again. So I get it, but he's got a lot better line, and I can see that very point of because that's the importance. If you don't keep the integrity of the offense will not have integrity. So he has the weapons, he has to learn how to use those, and I'm sure by this time, hopefully, but they haven't been going up against anybody different. They've been going up against their own teammates. They're not going up against a team that's throwing junk defenses at him or whatever else. He's going to have to make the decisions and all of that. So it will be interesting. So what are your expectations this week for this first game against Old Dominion?
Yeah, to be clear, I think that Curt Cignetti has talked repeatedly about Old Dominion and how they've beaten some Power 4 teams the last couple of years. They've beaten Virginia Tech a couple times. They took South Carolina, darling of the college football playoff race, to the wire last year. They led South Carolina in the fourth quarter of that game. So I don't think that he is just blowing smoke. Having watched some of the film of some of Old Dominion's players, it's a good team. They are not a pushover. And what they've done there is they don't have a ton of NIL cash to be thrown around, even less than some of the other teams in their conference, like James Madison or Appalachian State. And so they've gone to the JUCO ranks for a lot of guys. They've really made that a priority to go out and get some of the best JUCO players they can find. It's basically a last chance U reunion up there at Old Dominion. And they have a good team. They're a team that is probably not going to contend for a Sun Belt championship, but it's a team that is going to give Indiana a real challenge and a real look in week one. I think it's probably the most difficult of the three non-conference games. And so you're going to see, okay, how does this whole thing fit together, right? What I am looking for is how that offensive line comes together, right? Because for all the talk about it is more talented than it was last year. I think that's fair to say. You get Drew Evans back, which is huge. Pat Coogan at center, I think, is a very, very good player. And then you get Zen Mikulski at right tackle. That is one of the things I'm most interested in seeing is Mikulski has not played a ton of right tackle before. He talked about it this offseason about how he kind of had to switch sides and kind of start doing everything with his offhand, which I thought was really interesting. So it is one of those things. I want to see how that line comes together, right? How coherent and cohesive are they in week one? Because they'll get better as the season goes on. They have talent, they have guys, but how coherent are they right away? How much was it Bob Bostad able to put that together for week one? So I'm interested in that. Can they give Fernando Mendoza time to throw right away? And then how does the defense look? How does having three All-Americans back, how effective can that make your defense just kind of as a bare minimum? And so I'm really curious about that. I am also curious, as we talked about last week, about the atmosphere. I want to know how ready are Indiana football fans for the start of maybe the most anticipated season in the history of the program. Because like last year, we were excited about the season. I think people who were following closely were excited about the season because Coach Sig had talked a big game and they had a lot of players that people liked, but we had no idea how good they were actually going to be. This year, coming off the college football playoff, there's a lot of anticipation in the college football world about how good Indiana could or might be, but within Indiana and the Indiana world, how excited are people for this season? Are they willing to come out for week one against a team that is not a name brand and fill the stadium? I'm interested in that. I'm interested to see how they kind of follow up the momentum they had at the end of last season and try to roll it over into this year. So I'm really fascinated by this game. I think it's going to be a fun one. I think it's going to be closer than people think. And I think there's going to be some fun to be had at Merchants Bank Field at Memorial Stadium.
I agree with you. And I've talked about that, Dylan, that, Indiana fans are not accustomed to being football fans, not being Indiana football fans. And I know there's some people, well, I've been a football fan for 80 years. Well, you haven't been going to many games because there's not a lot of you. But if Indiana wants to not hear me or other people complain about them not being on that upper level, which I don't complain about that. But if they want the respect from others, part of that is, right or wrong, the support the team gets. An empty stadium gives you a perception right off the bat. It's like going by an empty restaurant. If you're looking for a really good restaurant to eat at and you see one that's empty, what's your first thought?
Maybe I should try somewhere else because word of mouth has not reached this place.
Exactly. So after an 11-2 college football playoff appearance season and all that has gone on with Indiana football, the transformation, the crazy transformation, if you can't get fans to support that, then I don't know. I don't want to hear, well, it's against Old Dominion. Well, you know what? You're supposed to be supporting your team, not the opponent. So, and there's a lot more. First of all, the weather, you could not custom order this weather from God.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be incredible. The time, you're not getting screwed with a noon kickoff. You got a little time to tailgate. And it's a holiday weekend. What the hell else you got to do? What?
You get to see the bison for the first time. The bison's
that. I've already had that conversation, which I'm cool with. I don't care. But I will say this: once you start going out of town, people are always asking, "So what is a Hoosier?" Now you're going to have to explain. So what the hell is a Hoosier, and what the hell does a bison have to do with a Hoosier?
We're adding layers on layers to this whole thing. We're very excited about it. Hey, it's Alabama's mascot is an elephant, and they probably have to explain all the time about what that has to do with Crimson Tide. So that's par for the course. That's part of big time college football.
I'm not sure what Andrew is saying there. Now, please re-comment on that, because I think you're talking. I'm not sure if you're joking and you're talking about the previous owner. But speaking of the coaches show, it is Thursday at 7 p.m. at Hoosier Hanks East, which is over by the College Mall in Bloomington. The owner, who is a different owner from last year, has taken over, and they're going to be opening up a place downtown as well for Hoosier Hanks at a different time. But this one is taking place at Hoosier Hanks East over on the east side by the College Mall. Looking forward to this weekend. And I'm wondering how much, I don't know. Curt Cignetti would not admit to this, but he likes to make statements. without making statements. He likes to make statements with statements, and he likes to make statements without statements.
Yeah.
The statement that I think he wants to make this week is, yeah, well, you can count us out if you like, but here we come again. To do that, I'm not as worried about, not worried, but wouldn't be as concerned about the offense as maybe the defense, or the reverse. I think the defense is going to be ready. Now, there's going to be questions on that front. How well they replaced CJ West and Linnell Carr Jr. and James Carpenter and all these names that I'm still more familiar with than the guys currently on the team.
Yeah, I mean, they've gone about trying to do that, right? Like, they really like Jose Wheeler, the kid from Western Kentucky, who is going to be defensive tackle for them this year. He was the first team All-Conference USA guy last year. Similar profile to CJ West before he got here, right? I don't think he's quite the NFL prospect that CJ West was, but they hope that he can be the next one in line. And then you still have Tyreek Tucker, who was number 3 at that position last year, very capable. Number 3. And so if you have that combo, you feel pretty good about where you're at, but then can you fill in the depth behind it, right? That's going to be the question, because you can't play 2 defensive tackles the entire game. You need to have guys behind them. And so what happens when they need a breather? That's going to be the question for me. I do think the defense will be more ready than the offense, just because the offense has more new pieces in important spots. Right. But I do think that I would like to see the connection that Fernando Mendoza has with some of his receivers. Like, who is going to be that number 3 guy? I think it is, because I think you can reasonably say that Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper are the top 2. That's one of the better combos in the country. Who is that third guy who's consistently getting open? Is EJ Williams healthy? Is he on the field? Is he a factor? Because like he looked like it in camp. He looked like a guy who could be a factor for them in camp. Is it Jonathan Brady, the kid that came over from Cal who played with Fernando before? Is it Mekhi Jackson, who came over from Appalachian State and was solid for them? Is it LeBron Bond, who we've heard so much of in fall camp as a true freshman here? Who is that guy who's going to be the number 3 receiver? Because they got a lot of them, right? And so I'm interested to see kind of the how Fernando goes about splitting up targets. I want to see Holden Stays. Holden Stays is a guy that I covered at Notre Dame at tight end, who I thought could be a starting tight end for a lot of teams around the country, and just didn't have an opportunity because Notre Dame had first Michael Mayer and then Mitchell Evans, both of whom are now in the NFL at that spot. Can he become a guy who can be a real target for Fernando Mendoza? So I'm interested in all these things. I'm interested to see how the offense comes together. We haven't even talked about the running backs, who I think are going to be very good. And so we'll see. This is all stuff that I'm interested in. One thing we haven't talked about yet is that it is Lewis Moore Day. Happy Lewis Moore Day to all who celebrate. Today is the day of his hearing, in which we will likely find out whether he will get to play this season. So it's kind of a very unique situation that he's in. The judge
don't see any way possible of him not playing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be utterly shocked, because there's if it went against him, there's no way that there's not going to be an appeal.
Right.
But I just don't, I'm sorry. I'm not an attorney, obviously. But sometimes there's enough common sense and enough information there that the average person can go, okay, I see 2 and 2. That should equal 4.
You'd like to think
this
so.
case is not always. Sometimes that funky math comes in, but I'm seeing 2 and 2 here.
Yeah, I think it should be. Again, I'm not a lawyer either. I do not know exactly what they're kind of trying to consider here, but I mean, the judge seemed predisposed in his ruling from a couple weeks ago, granting him the ability to practice, essentially, granting him the temporary.
Not only that, Dylan, but it was the verbiage
Yes,
that the judge used.
He seemed very much on Lewis Moore's side, and he seemed to think that he would have a chance of winning on the merits going forward. And so he set the hearing for a couple of weeks. It seems silly if he were going to turn around and say, well, no, I don't like where this is going. I don't see why he wouldn't have said that 2 weeks ago. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But we'll have to see, because today is the day of the hearing. We'll have to see. Curt Cignetti was pretty mum about it earlier this week, kind of asked about it and basically said, well, we're handling it as best we see fit. But they've said before that they are on his side. They want him to play. He is an important player for them. He is a guy who was very, very good. Remember all the way back in 2023, that was such a long time ago. But he was really good for that Tom Allen defense. One of their better defensive players, I thought. So losing him was really tough last season, and getting him back, I thought, was a huge, huge deal for this team. And it would be a blow if he could not be on the field for them this year. So would love to have him in that defensive secondary, a guy who's played a ton of football. And I guess we'll find out probably later today whether he is able to play.
Yeah, like I said, I would be shocked if that does not come to fruition. Again, because the verbiage the judge used, and by that I mean talking specifically about how he would be irreparably harmed financially if he is not allowed to do this. And I'm still really befuddled how the NCAA came to this decision to begin with. I'm like, wait a minute, this guy didn't play 7.5 years and is trying to get an 8th year here. It's crazy. And it's like, man, this is why the NCAA is so screwed up. This is why they lose so many times. They don't pick the right fights. You've heard the phrase, choose your battles. They don't. They take all the dumbest battles on, and you have no chance at this.
Yeah, and so this is the next front here. It's the 5-year rule that they're trying to hold on to. Is, hey, once you start your college career, it's a 5-year timeline, regardless of where you played, to finish it, right? And including COVID, that's 6 years. And so he's played his 6 years, and it's time for him to move on. That's the NCAA's kind of understanding of the situation. But they've
set too much of a precedent with too many 6- and 7-year people for various reasons. So what about medical hardships, medical waivers? What about this? So if you're going to count one, you count them all, especially in this day and age. There's just, it would kind of not be fun if you're waiting to hear about this days away from game one.
Yeah. And so we'll have to see what they say about Lewis Moore, but he is a significant piece of that Indiana defense. And if he is able to be out there, that is a significant win for IU, a guy who was an all-conference level player in 2023. I don't think he ended up making the all-conference team, but I thought he played well enough to deserve a spot on that team, and probably would have had IU gone 6-6 instead of 3-9, which they very nearly did. So he's a guy who is a big part of this defense, and we'll have to see. Everyone's holding their breath. I'm sure he is too.
Absolutely. Hey, let's take a quick break. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette with us. We've got plenty more coming up. Don't forget, go to ESPN.com's College Pick'ems and go to the fantasy tab. The group is ISB Radio. Password Cignetti 2025. ISB Radio, Cignetti 2025. One word on that second one. And these are against the spread, but they're weighted. If you have more confidence in a pick, you can put more confidence in a pick. It's really going to be fun this year. We're coming back with more from Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after these messages. Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Wednesday. You've made it through the halfway point of the week. Glad to have you along. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette with me as well. Hey, it's cut day in the NFL, by the way. Some guys are going to be getting the pink slip or be moving over to the practice squad. We'll see how that ends up on the Colts. And luckily, I don't expect to get cut myself today. So hopefully I'm doing okay.
Well, you never know. You better have your playbook sitting around just in case. You don't want to be embarrassed when they say
that, and have your agent on a speed dial, baby, ready to go. There's going to be guys looking for a job. Any it's hard to predict, but anything that the ones that you kind of see coming?
Well, I'm interested. I mean, yesterday, the one we heard yesterday was Miles Price made the 53-man roster for the Vikings, which good for him. Guy who was really, really effective for Indiana last year in a number of different ways. Obviously, the Vikings saw something in him that they liked in the preseason. He played very well, so good for him. Guy who came over from Texas Tech and kind of made the right decision, obviously, with his college choice last year. So good for Miles Price. I'm interested to see how the third string quarterback situation shakes out for the Colts. Riley Leonard obviously played very well in the preseason, the third preseason game just the other day against the Bengals. So did Jason Bean, though. So we'll see. Do you go with the guy who's been in the organization for a couple of years, or do you go with the rookie who is coming out of Notre Dame and played very well for them last year? We'll see. I'm interested in that because I do think that at some point the third string guy is probably going to start this year. Would be my guess. So I am pretty convinced of that. So we'll see with that situation and how that shakes out. I do think that both of those guys are pretty good, and we'll have to see how long it takes into the season for the Daniel Jones experiment to run its course, because I don't think that's going to be one where he starts 17 games this year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he takes a step forward and enjoys playing with Jonathan Taylor and some of the other weapons they have there on offense. But we'll have to see. So I do think the third string quarterback is a little bit more important in this kind of setting than it would be otherwise. The other one is Terry McLaurin, who just got paid by the Washington Commanders. He got his contract. He had kind of been doing a hold in, the Indianapolis native, and he got his money, 3 years, $96 million on the extension. Only $44 million guaranteed. So he's going to have to do some really good work over the next couple of years here to really to make that contract worth its full value. But he got what he wanted. Now, can he kind of ramp up quickly enough with Jaden Daniels to be the number one receiver that Washington really needs him to be, that he was last year? Because they don't really have a whole lot else. Their number two receiver last year was Zach Ertz, who is a 34-year-old tight end. So it's not exactly what you want there in Washington in terms of the receiving core. But with McLaurin back, they at least have a chance. So we'll have to see on that as well. So looking forward to some of these roster decisions and kind of see how these things shake out.
And as you're getting ready, huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy Sports store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, Adidas, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across the state of Indiana, including our Bloomington location. Fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors. And tailgating, baby.
Who's going to be the king of the tailgaters this weekend? That's going to be what a great weekend. Boy, the grills are going to be fired up. You know, when you arrive to the Memorial Stadium area, you're going to have the smoke wafting through the air. Nothing better. That's the greatest smell in the world. And you get a mixture of all those different ones. It's going to be just fun. I'm looking forward to just getting out in that environment. I really wish, boy, I wish we could convince Indiana that media members are not offended by a little bit of outside noise, because boy, Michigan State is the place I love the best because they have microphones around the field that you can actually hear into the press box. And that allows you to me, it allows you to follow the game easier, better. Having a complete audio lockdown does not help me follow the game more. But that's the way it's taken there. But I'd like to hear a little sound. But that's not the case. That's why I step outside. I go outside the doors there on the end sometimes just to get a little taste of it.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I cover Notre Dame as well, and they always have the windows at least partially open in the press box, so you can kind of hear the fans. Now, that's not so great when it's November and it's 20 degrees out, and that makes it pretty cold in the press box, but you do get to hear the fans, and it is pretty intense there. So I really do enjoy that they do that, and I understand what you're talking about, going out on the patio and just kind of soaking things in a little bit, getting a sense of the atmosphere. Which last season must have been a lot of fun, right? Like, it's sometimes those atmospheres in 22 and 23 were a little bit dour, I think would be the word I would use. Last year, it must have been a lot of fun. Go out there on the patio and just kind of soak in everything that was going on and how excited everyone was, especially in some of those games late in the season where the stadium was completely packed and the towels were waving. It must have been a blast.
You covered Notre Dame as well. What are your expectations for the Fighting Irish this year? They seem to be much higher this season than they were for them last season.
Yeah, it's interesting. They bring back a fair amount. It's they've done a good job of building the roster from the ground up through a lot of really good high school recruiting. And so they have guys to replace most of the good players they lost from last season. Their offensive line should be one of the best in the country. They returned 4 starters there, and a fifth was going to return, and then he got hurt in the summer. And so he'll be back at some point this season. We're not sure when. But they bring back Jeremiah Love. That's kind of the name to know, the guy who had the 98-yard touchdown against IU. He is a preseason Heisman Trophy frontrunner. He is one of probably 5 or 6 guys that I would put at the top of the list there that could win the award. He is absolutely fantastic. Probably the best running back in the country, depending on how you feel about Nick Singleton at Penn State. So I like I like this team a lot. I think that the biggest question for me is, obviously, as it's going to be for everyone, is a quarterback. They're replacing Riley Leonard. They have CJ Carr, who's a borderline 5-star kid for them. He's going to make his first career start against Miami in Miami-Dade over there on Sunday. Really, really tough game to start. And then in week 3, they have a bye in week 2. And then in week 3, they play Texas A&M at Notre Dame Stadium. So they start out with 2 really, really difficult games for CJ Carr. I think if they split those, they're in pretty good shape because the rest of the schedule is a little bit easier. And if they go 2-0, there's a real chance that they are going to finish the season undefeated. So we'll see. I think they're going to lean on the run game. They're going to lean on the defense, which should be very good again. They, like Indiana, they have some questions along the defensive line. They lost 2 extremely good defensive tackles in Riley Mills and Howard Cross, both of whom were All-Americans in their career. They're replacing them with some guys who they like, but who are unproven. And so we'll have to see. But I think this is a college football playoff team again. I think it's probably 10-2 or 11-1. I think they'll probably be maybe a little bit lower of a seed than last year, maybe 8 or 9 or 10, somewhere in that range. Maybe not hosting a first-round game. But I think it's a playoff team again. I think they have the talent to do it. And they like what they have up there in South Bend.
Yeah, I agree. And again, for those looking for the college pick'ems, it's ISB Radio, not Indiana Sports Beat, not anything else. It's ISB Radio. Password Cignetti 2025. So get past that. Yeah, it's Purdue, of course. The only expectations can go up because it couldn't get much worse than it did last year with Ryan Walters, who is now the defensive coordinator at Washington, taking over for Steve Belichick, who is in North Carolina with his pops. And speaking of which, they had that Hard Knocks deal set up that's not going to take place, but they are going to do some kind of streaming thing on Hulu, I saw. I guess his girlfriend got something else set up, but it's funny. Haven't heard a word about her lately, have we?
No, it seems like they kind of shut that down. We're like, all right, let's try to be let's try to be a big boy program here. I think is kind of what the situation was, and so I haven't heard a word from her basically all summer. So we'll have to see. But they started off the season with a tough game. They played TCU right off the bat. TCU won 9 games last year. They returned their quarterback, former IU commit Josh Hoover, who people like a lot. And so we're going to see. I think that TCU is probably the better team in that game. Belichick brought in a lot of guys, not a lot of really high-profile ones. So we'll have to see how that shakes out in his first season. I don't know how good North Carolina is going to be right off the bat. We're going to have to find out. I'm interested to see for him especially. I mean, this is not the New England Patriots. This is not the NFL. These guys are college kids. He asked so much from his players in New England, especially on defense. Their defensive system was really intricate. It required a lot from his players, so he brought in guys who were really, really smart. And college kids, even the best ones, most of them are not going to be able to run that kind of defense. So what happens when one of them messes up a coverage that your average third stringer in the NFL knows like the back of their hand? Because that's going to happen. These kids are 18, 19, 20 years old. What's going to happen is he going to be able to kind of figure that out and figure out a way to teach that in a way that makes sense to the guys on the team. I'm interested to see how he goes about teaching college kids and molding a team. And that is going to be a storyline throughout the year in college football, is how much better does that team get over the course of the season by dint of having one of the best coaches in the history of football on that sideline. So I'm interested in that.
Absolutely. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Make sure you're giving him a follow and keeping up with all that he has got going. I will see you. Are you coming down Saturday?
Not I will be at Purdue on Saturday. Purdue Ball State, first game for a couple of new coaches. Chance for Purdue to snap an 11-game losing streak. So I will be there, and then hopefully going to IU next week for week 2. So we'll. Well,
that should be an exciting day.
Is the plan. Oh
yeah. Yeah. Appreciate you, my friends.
All right, Jim. Thanks for having me on. As always, looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. More coming up when we return from these messages.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Wednesday. I hope your week is going well. You've made it to the halfway point. And halfway point to week 1 in college football as we get ready to kick things off this weekend. Plenty of games on the dais, baby, and looking forward to them. Of course, that's the one bad thing about covering these games is you end up missing a lot of games, and of course some of the big games will be at noon, like I believe Ohio State and Texas is a noon game, but we'll be able to catch some of that out at the tailgating and whatnot. People have their some TVs on, and you end up being able to catch that. But who's gonna do what? Who's gonna come out of this weekend smelling like a rose? And no pun intended there. But follow up last weekend, Iowa State beat Kansas State in the only ranked matchup last week. Boise State, they take on South Florida. I'm trying to look at some of the really good, attractive games that will catch our attention. But none bigger, of course, than Ohio State, Texas, as that is not only a matchup of top 5 teams, it's an SEC Big Ten matchup as well. So there's that happening. Let's see, games tomorrow night. A lot of games tomorrow night, by the way. Wisconsin plays tomorrow. Nebraska plays at Cincinnati tomorrow at 9 p.m. Wisconsin is at home. I'm shocked. Nebraska is opening their season on the road. Now, that is one of the reasons why Indiana got out of those series that they had canceled with Louisville and Virginia. Not necessarily the only reason, but they don't want to open their season on the road, especially in the non-conference. Well, they're going to have to get over that because it's going to come down to the non-conference games plus a P4 matchup in the future. And what that will mean is a home and home series with someone, which you'll probably play the same team each year, like Wisconsin and Alabama played last year at Wisconsin, this year at Alabama. And then whomever it will be next. You're going to see a lot of those. And that's another reason to get your season tickets now, because the schedule's going to get a little tougher, a little better. Next year's home schedule will be fantastic for Indiana. They got some big teams coming in, but Wisconsin, Nebraska play this weekend. Minnesota also at home to Buffalo this weekend. Oklahoma State at home. Let's see, Missouri, Wyoming. There's several other games, but the Rutgers, a lot of Big Ten teams playing on Thursday. What is that, like 4 I've mentioned? Yeah, at least 4 Big Ten teams play on Monday. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star joins us now. And speaking of this weekend, it goes into week 2 for the high school season, man. How was your first week out there?
It was good. Long weekend, just a lot of content, but good stuff. And, I was out at Center Grove, Warren. So Center Grove took care of business 24-6, but it was a good weekend overall. I think we learned a lot about a lot of teams, and react to week 1 probably a little bit, but we'll see what happens this week, holiday weekend, and should be another great night of games. The weather was fantastic, and it looks like it's going to be again.
Yeah, unfortunately, the high school is not necessarily around here, but because of this opening week of college football, college football just takes over. There were, already games last Saturday, 5, but this Thursday, There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 college games this Thursday, and then about another 10 or so on Friday before the traditional Saturday games. But a lot of college football this weekend, but doesn't matter. The high school games roll on, man. And this weekend is no different. You're already into week 2. You'll have 20% of your season over after tonight's game or this Friday's game. That's crazy to say that.
Yeah, it is. It's the regular season tends to fly by, and I already know we'll be at October here before we know it, and going into the tournament. But yeah, I mean it goes fast, that's for sure.
What are your expectations for this week? What did you see last week? Anything stand out?
Yeah, definitely. And I will say, man, the hunger for high school football is not subsided. I hated the colleges playing on Fridays. That ship has sailed. It's never going to go back to what it was. But man, I mean the passion, the people who are just reading about high school football or reacting to it is great. I mean, so from that standpoint, nothing's if anything, there's more interest now than there ever has been. So that's been awesome to see. But I will say, probably the number one thing to me, coming out of week 1 was, among other things, I would say Brownsburg beating Archbishop Spalding out of Maryland was definitely an eye opener. That Archbishop Spalding is a nationally ranked team. So to kind of handle them, it was 36-23 at home. I think, that's a great thing for Indiana high school football, to not just Brownsburg, but just generally. Like, man, that's a feather in your cap for everybody who's involved. And it only helps the other teams, get their recognition too. So that was cool to see. And then, also as Carmel beating Fishers the way they did, and really kind of doing whatever they wanted to on offense. They scored 49 points, so the Kevin Wright factor, and it's not just him. Obviously, the players are doing it on the field, but whatever they're doing there has clearly worked, at least through 1 week. And now they play Westfield. I can't wait to see that game on Friday, but that will be dynamite. The crowd will be awesome out at Carmel on Friday, and that'll be a fantastic game. But, those things stuck out to me. I was at watching Center Grove, nothing they did kind of dissuaded me from thinking they're going to be one of the best teams in the state. And Warren Central's running back, I mean, Warren struggled on offense, for different reasons, not to put anything on certain high school players, but, they couldn't complete, move the ball through the air as well as they wanted to. And I do think they can do that in the future. They had some drops. It wasn't all in the quarterbacks, but yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be, still be a handful. They're playing without their 2 best defensive players. But their running back, Keon Thomas is sensational. He ran for about 120 yards against a really good defense. And even when you knew he was coming, Center Grove, as good a defense as they are, and they did a good job, on him, I think, for the most part. But yeah, he can run around you. He can run through you. He's super strong, has offers from IU and Purdue already, in addition to a lot of MAC schools. He's only a junior, but I could not have been more impressed with what he did on Friday, watching him in person. You don't see running back, and I love watching running backs who are really good. And, he's got those qualities for sure. There's a difference in what he's doing compared to some others out there. But yeah, he was really good. So, yeah, there was a lot of takeaways. I mean, there's a ton of good games and a ton of them coming this week too. A ton of great performances on Friday, and we'll see what happens this week. I think Cathedral beating Ben Davis 8-0. It'll be interesting. Cathedral plays Brownsburg this week. I think Brownsburg will win, but Cathedral pretty strong on both sides of the line, and they're going to be a handful. I think in 5A especially. And Decatur Central unfortunately lost their quarterback for probably about 4 to 6 weeks. Bo Polston, who's going to Toledo, he separated shoulder, so he'll be out for a while anyway. So unfortunately, they're playing New Pal this week. That takes a little bit of shine off that game, but still should be a really good game. But playing with a different quarterback. So
Yeah, there have been a lot of Indiana players that have put themselves on par with getting some big scholarships, whether it's to Alabama, whether it's to Ohio State. The talent is level has been on the rise in this state. And how does this year compare to last year? Because last year was phenomenal. There were just a ton of really good players that we were aware of, and this is early on now. And some of those guys are still going to emerge as the season goes on. But as of right now, how would you compare this year to last year from a individual talent standpoint?
I mean, it's pretty deep again, I would say. I mean, you look at, you know, and you know, JJ Finch didn't play on Friday, and hopefully he had a foot injury. Hopefully he's back. You know, he's right at the, you know, at the top of that group for Warren Central. You mentioned Alabama; he's committed to there. But yeah, I mean, you know, you go down the list, and you know, Jet Goldsberry from Heritage Hills, who's going to Ole Miss, he had a big day on Friday. They had an easy game, but still, you know, really good player. And his buddy there, Tyler Ruxer, who's going to OU, you know, big tight end, who he's going to have a big year as well. But yeah, you go down the list. There's a lot of Big Ten. There's a lot of, you know, Casimir Hicks at Decatur, of course, going to IU. You know, James Williams at LC, who's a lineman going to Purdue. You know, I saw Kobe Cherry on Friday. He looked really good. He's going to Purdue. You know, and there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of ACC, you know, Dominic Berry, I saw him Friday he's Center Grove tight end going to Wake Forest. He's a really, you know, to me, he's, you know, he's going to be a really good player in college. Just one of those big tight ends who's athletic too. You know, yeah, so it's a really deep class, I would say. I mean, again, you have a lot of guys who are going to MAC schools that I think will be good players at the MAC, and then maybe, you know, who knows what happens now? They could end up going higher, or you know, staying there or whatever, you know. But a lot of MAC programs, you know, and then at the top you have a lot of Power Fives like Terry Walker going to Duke, you know, at quarterback, and you know, so. Yeah, I'm missing obviously a lot more, but there are some really good players in this class. And Blake Smythe from Franklin going to IU, he's a beast of a defensive lineman. Hopefully get to see him play here soon. But you know, but yeah, there's a lot of good. It's a deep class. I think it stacks up pretty well with the classes we've had recently.
Has the transfer portal that allows guys to move from Division I power teams to other Division I power teams, have you seen that affect Indiana players getting the bigger scholarships and having to go to like MAC schools first or whatever, or has there been little to no effect?
No, there has been, and I'd be curious to know, you know, because I did talk to some basketball players about this, and maybe it affects more basketball than football, or I think it affects football too. But again, you know, we may have talked about this before, but I think there's an opportunity to go play at a MAC school, or, you know, maybe that level of school or whatever, and then maybe play your way up to, you know, I know in basketball, honestly, that's part of the recruiting pitch sometimes for the mid majors or low majors. It's like, hey, come help us. You know, you're going to be a great player for us, and then see what happens after a year, you know. So that can be sort of a recruiting pitch in your favor if you're a mid-major program. And again, I hear that more in basketball than I have in football, but I think it applies to both. You know, there's just more numbers of players, so you have a little bit more scholarship flexibility in football than you do basketball, obviously, just the nature of the sport. But yeah, I think it does. I mean, there are players I look at, you know, and again, going back to basketball, like Noah Smith at Plainfield, who's going to DePaul, which is, you know, Chris Holtman's doing a good job, I think, building that program, and this will be a good opportunity for him. But man, I look at him, and 5-6 years ago, I would have thought he would have had a lot of Big Ten offers, or at least some Big Ten offers, and you know, because 6'8" and you can shoot. I mean, those guys don't, you know, you don't just run across those everywhere. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, part of it is, you know, and it's all individual based too. You know, not everybody's situation is the same. There may be mitigating circumstances that we don't know about on the surface sometimes. So all that plays into it. But yeah, I think across the board, and then, you know, limiting scholarships too is that will affect things. You know, just less walk-on opportunities at the bigger schools. There's just it's just kind of a different world a little bit that we're in right now than we were before. But yeah, I think still those chances to go. You look at like what Carson Steele did a few years ago out of Center Grove. Didn't have big offers. I don't know, that was a chip on his shoulder when he went to Ball State and then went to UCLA after that. So he got a good opportunity, got a chance to play in the spotlight, did really well. I mean, obviously he belonged, at that level. Got a chance with the Chiefs. I saw he got cut yesterday, but hopefully he latches on somewhere. But that's an example of someone who kind of played themselves into a bigger spot.
And then, what's your expectations for this week? Anybody have a chance to really make a move early on in the state right now?
Yeah, this week will be, I would say probably the best games around here. Like I mentioned, Cathedral at the outset, they go to Brownsburg on Friday. Like I said, Brownsburg's a more explosive team. Cathedral doesn't have quite the big playmaking ability that Brownsburg does, but if they can control the ball, like I think, their offensive line's really good, and I'm curious to see how that game goes. But I would say the biggest be at Carmel, where can Carmel beat Westfield, and that will be a fantastic atmosphere. And Carmel's one of those schools that you kind of for years you just assumed they would be among the best in the state every year in, year out. They kind of dropped off of that since probably around the pandemic year, and have kind of struggled a little bit. Haven't won a sectional in 5 years. So this will be a chance for them to kind of put their footprint back among those elite teams. So definitely a statement type game. Westfield's just, they've kind of become the car, they're sort of like the team you count on now in that area. So we'll see. That'll be a great game. Two really good coaches. Josh Miracle's done a great job, taking over for Jake Gilbert and kind of keeping that thing rolling at Westfield. So I can't wait to see that game. That's going to be fantastic. But, New Pal Decatur, that'll be a good game on Friday. Like I mentioned earlier, Decatur's quarterback, Bo Polston's out, unfortunately, but still a lot of talent on that team. Center Grove goes up to Fort Wayne to play Carroll, which could be interesting. Lawrence North, Xavier Moore had a big game last week. I think he'll be fun to watch. They play Fishers this week, so Fisher's trying to bounce back from a loss to Carmel in the opener. And Southside battle, Roncalli and Franklin Central is always good. So there's a lot of good games. Crown Point actually comes down here to play Pike. So Pike's not the biggest powerhouse in the area, but that Crown Point playing a team down here I think is good for them, just to kind of get and give us a sense of maybe how good Crown Point is. I think it's good for their program to play. I would say even play another 6A team from down here. Because Crown Point's at that level. They're in that group. I think they've gotten some respect from people around here. The run they made to the state finals a couple of years ago, beating Westfield in the semi-state, and making it back to semi-state again last year. So I think that's cool that they're playing teams down here. I hope they continue to do that, and maybe even add another non-conference game. But Fort Wayne Carroll's done that too, obviously playing Center Grove and HSE the last couple of years. So, and I think that's been good for their program. So yeah, hopefully we see more of that. I think it's good to get those. It's good when we have teams not from Indianapolis area in 6A competing. I think that's good for the sport.
Yeah, Brownsburg probably sitting atop the state right now is the best team right until they get knocked off, right?
Yeah, I'd say Brownsburg's for sure number one. I have them number one. I think most people do. In our state poll this week, our USA Today poll, which I compile from getting ballots from everybody, I think they had 16 of the 18 votes. So they're not unanimous, but pretty close. I think Westfield had the other two, which it makes sense. I mean, they've been right at the top there too. And then Center Grove's 3. So those Brownsburg, Westfield, and Center Grove are 1, 2, 3 this week. And I think we'll see how it goes on Friday. I mean, Westfield could lose to Carmel. I mean, that'll be a great game. Lawrence North is 4, Crown Point 5. Those teams are, I think, they're not getting quite as many votes as the top 3 are. It's kind of a little bit of separation there. And then it goes HSC, Carmel, Avon, Columbus North and Penn are the next group in 6A. So, it's and a lot of changes. We had 4 teams that jumped into the top 10, 4 teams that fell out based on the first week of results. So that shows you there's some parity there, and that'll make it fun this year.
Yeah, teams from all over as well. But how about the Fighting Sicilies from Heritage Hills, man?
They're really good. I've got them number 1. Chittard is actually ranked number 1, and Heritage Hills is 2, but I've got Heritage Hills 1 and 4A. I know they were 3A last year, but they're pretty much most of their team is back, and they were so good last year. So yeah, they're right at the top there, and it'll be curious to see. They do have some tough teams on the schedule coming up. I know they play a team out of Owensboro on Friday, Apollo. So we'll see how that game goes. Ooh. But Gibson Southern is an excellent team that they'll play down the road. And those teams used to be in the same sectional together, but now with Heritage Hills moving up, them and Evansville Memorial, they were all in the same sectional. So now that's changed a little bit, but they play, looks like week 6, I think. So, that could be a knockdown drag out. That'll be a great crowd, I'm sure, down there, and always is. But yeah, Heritage Hills is legit. They're really, really good.
Gibson, how does Gibson keep producing these quarterback after quarterback after quarterback?
Well, they got a good coach, Nick Hart, who is the son of John Hart, who coaches at Brownsburg. He's been there a long time now. Every summer, off season, you kind of hear his name involved for other jobs like around here and elsewhere. But he seems pretty solid down there. He's AD down there. Gibson Southern's kind of, it's out of the way. It's not, you come up onto Gibson Southern, you're probably going there, planning to go there, because it's not a place where you just happen to come across. But yeah, man, they produce. They are a great football, and they follow their team, man. They came up here for a semi-state at Tri-West a couple of years ago, and there were campers all over the place. I mean, you would have thought it was a college game, the way it was, the way they followed that team. It was a Saturday game, and it was awesome, man. They really showed out. But yeah, they produce the players, and they develop players, and they do a great job. So Nick's been there a long time, so I think he probably gets a lot of credit, but he's a pretty low-key guy. And but yeah, they're always in the mix, it feels like, and I think they will be again this year. They're ranked, I think, 2nd this week in 3A. So I would assume they're going to be, pretty tough to deal with the rest of the year. But yeah, there's a lot of good football down that direction. Memorial's actually ranked number 1 and Gibson Southern 2. So those 2 teams are in the same sectional together again this year. So that'll be fun to see how that plays out.
Looking forward to it, man, and looking forward to the great coverage that Kyle Neddenriep provides at the Indy Star. That is the place to go for all your high school coverage. Appreciate you, my friend.
No problem. Thanks, Jim.
You betcha. We've got more coming up here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Zach Browning will join us a little later. We'll talk more IU football and plenty more to get to. How about Cracker Barrel? All the grief they're getting over changing the logo. We'll talk about that and lots more when we come back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. Back right after these messages.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC. Local lives here.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Wednesday. We're halfway through week 1 for college football season getting underway. Well, I'm not even going to say it. I'm just going to say getting underway. Last week was just an appetizer. It gets underway this weekend with a plethora. Actually, tomorrow night it starts. But also the Indiana Football Coaches Show tomorrow night at 7 at Hoosier Hanks. That East, don't forget Hoosier Hanks East going out there. And Brian reminds you that on the pick'ems, you aren't picking against the spread per se. It is, but you're also putting weight on there. So I haven't done it yet. So I'll get in there, and it's just a new little wrinkle they've added, which should make it a little more fun. Well, we'll see how that goes, but just go to the fantasy tab on ESPN and find the college pick'ems, ISB Radio, and Cignetti 2025 as one word is what you're looking for. If you're looking on the screen, you can see it's just ISB and then radio, and the password is Cignetti 2025, one word. So there's that. Zach Browning will join us a little later. We'll talk about this weekend's game, what to look forward to, what Old Dominion brings as well to this weekend as far as the challenge that Indiana will face. How about the grief that Cracker Barrel took for changing their logo? You talk about just sitting out in your yard and yelling at the sun. Who cares? Who gives a crap? People are complaining because they changed. Just go there and eat. Shut up. What are you kidding me? Good Lord. That is the biggest joke I've heard this year, I think. You have no issues in life if your biggest issue is Cracker Barrel changing their logo. I haven't been to a Cracker Barrel in so long I couldn't tell you, but yeah, craziness. Crazy. Let's see what else. Northwestern reached an agreement with former coach Pat Fitzgerald, the former Wildcats coach, in his $130 million lawsuit for wrongful termination in 2023 over hazing in that program that he knew nothing about. That it was kind of, Northwestern really screwed the pooch on this one. This came out a couple years ago. And Pat Fitzgerald, who has been just was a tremendous coach. You know what? Northwestern probably couldn't have had a better coach. He had 5 AP top 5 finishes. 5 at Northwestern. Crazy. And so they reached an agreement that, hey, all right, we're going to have to suspend you for a couple of weeks. He accepted that. And then the president got a little pressure, and instead of having common sense, he fired him. Fired Pat Fitzgerald. Well, Pat Fitzgerald said, yeah, not so fast, my friend. And that lawsuit has been going on since then, $130 million lawsuit. Now, they reached an agreement. I don't know what that number is. I'm going to bet it was pretty damn good. Pretty good, because I don't know that they had, again, I'm not an attorney, obviously, but I don't know that they had cause. I just don't know that they had cause, especially when you
reach an agreement with somebody. Yeah, don't know how much that cost them, but I will guess 50, 60, 70 million, who knows? At least. They also settled 34 other lawsuits with student athletes in regards to that hazing situation. So, yeah, dumb move by Northwestern's president. I don't know if it's the same one there, but they had 34 other outstanding lawsuits. That got settled back in May. It's been an expensive year for Northwestern. Pat Fitzgerald's son is a quarterback at Iowa. And it's been rumored that he's been hanging around there some. Guess who is close to retirement? Yeah, that would be Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. I don't know how much longer he's going to coach, but you know it's there. I mean, it's got to be coming very soon. And I think that Pat Fitzgerald and the job he did at Northwestern, would not be surprised to see him become the next coach at Iowa. They like continuity. Pat Fitzgerald was at Northwestern for 17 years. And let me tell you, if you can win at Northwestern, you can win anywhere. But Northwestern obviously has some money. It's not just this. I know what they're paying for some of the basketball players. They got money. They got money. They have their graduates make a lot of money, baby. Smart people. Some sad news. Forrest Lucas of Lucas Oil passed away at the age of 83, of course, from Southern Indiana, down my way in Harrison County, which Greg Raystraw from that area as well. But man, dude grew up poor and died a multi-millionaire after creating all the Lucas Oil. His name is on Lucas Oil Stadium, Indianapolis Lucas Oil Raceway Park. You've got the Lucas Oil Suites here at Indiana now. Lucas Oil is just a gigantic name around the world in auto sports, drag racing, but also in many other ways. And just sad for that to happen. And I may have failed to mention Gail Cook passed a couple, maybe 2 weeks ago now, of the Cook family. So sad news there. The Bison makes its first appearance Saturday, like I said. So I'm sure that for any kids that are out there, they'll be jacked up to see that. David, yeah, you agree, says Fitzgerald would be a good fit at Iowa. I agree. I think he's a perfect fit for Iowa. Iowa likes guys that just win and just go about their business. And that kind of reminds me of Pat Fitzgerald's got a little more personality than Kirk Ferentz. Kirk Ferentz is not a great personality, just been a solid coach for a long, long time. So I would expect, yeah, that would not surprise me at all. So looking forward to this week and the games, as I mentioned earlier. There are several good games that will come out this weekend. But speaking earlier of canceling series, Alabama and West Virginia mutually agreed to cancel their home-and-home series that had been scheduled for next season and the following season. The schools announced Tuesday. Alabama said it was making adjustments to its non-conference schedule in response to last week's announcement that the Southeastern Conference would go from playing 8 to 9 conference games starting in 2026. Makes sense. Alabama, you know, they've been on the forefront of that. They have never shied away from the schedule. They've got Wisconsin on the schedule now, but who knew back when you scheduled that Wisconsin was not going to be the Wisconsin of old. Interesting to see what Wisconsin will be like this year as they're on Indiana's schedule. West Virginia said it wanted to align with the scheduling philosophy, followed by many teams contending for a college football playoff berth. That means playing a fellow power conference opponent, P14, one from the group of 5. Those are any conference that's outside of the P4 teams, like Boise State, Arizona State, Colorado State, who's on Indiana's schedule for next year, and one from the second tier football championship subdivision. Personally, I don't think that FBS teams, football bowl subdivision teams, should be playing FCS teams, football championship series teams. The names are stupid. It's just like soccer in Europe, the Premier League and the Champions League. You would think the Champions League would be the top one, but the Premier League is the top one and you can relegate. Now, I've talked about this before. How much fun would relegation be in college football? It wouldn't be fun if you get relegated. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, in soccer in Europe, you've got the Premier League, which has X number of teams. Well, if you suck it up at the bottom, I don't know the exact setup for it, but you get relegated, meaning booted to the Champions League. And you have to earn your way back up to the Premier League, and a Champions team moves up. That's something I can see happening in the future, but maybe not, because the SEC and the Big Ten have so much sway that I don't see either of those conferences allowing, unless it was by a great mutual agreement, but I don't see any of those conferences allowing any of their members to stand the potential of relegation for a number of reasons. First of all, because it looks bad. Well, you've got 3 teams that are relegated to the bad level. So we shall see. We'll see how it goes. It's going to continue to change. College athletics is going to continue to change. So, what's the next big thing that'll drop? Who knows? Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman said he had to trust his gut in selecting freshman C.J. Carr to be the Fighting Irish's starting quarterback for Sunday's opener at Miami. So you've got Notre Dame with a freshman quarterback, Michigan with a freshman quarterback. Going to be interesting to see how some of these teams play. Now, Notre Dame, they're playing at number 10 Miami with Carson Beck. Michigan doesn't have quite that opener. So they'll be able to, and Michigan's quarterback is a true freshman. Big difference. But C.J. Carr is the grandson of former Michigan coach Lloyd Carr. Makes his first career start after appearing in only 1 game last season for the Irish, not recording any stats. So that's interesting. Did not follow the legacy. But he's setting his own legacy up. And how good of a job is Marcus Freeman doing at Notre Dame? He is definitely keeping them relevant. There's my Aunt Joyce. How are you doing? Holy moly. The things you never think you'll see. Glad to see you. Glad to have you. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Zach Browning will join us next. We'll preview this weekend's game with Indiana and Old Dominion that takes place at Memorial Stadium this Saturday afternoon. Back with more from Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after these messages.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing.
Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Wednesday. You made it halfway through the week, week 1 of the college football season. Zach Browning from thehoosier.com joins me now. And buddy, Indiana fans have been counting these days down, and they're still counting them down. They're down to hours now, Zach, before this weekend's kickoff with Old Dominion and year 2 of the Curt Cignetti regime. Expectations are high, and they start right from the kickoff.
Yeah, and it's not just Indiana fans that are excited for this game. We talked to the players last night. We talked to Carter Smith and Aiden Fisher, and they're excited as well. You can head over to thehoosier.com. Colin McMahon will have a story up this morning on just how excited they actually are, because they talked to us last night, and they said that they're just excited to hit somebody else. It was pretty simple. You know, they've been hitting, tackling, playing against each other for the last month and a half in fall camp, and they're excited to see somebody in royal blue in Old Dominion and not in cream and crimson with the Hoosiers. So I think they're excited too. They're excited to see the fans turn out. There's around 42,000. It's around that number expected for this week 1 contest against Old Dominion. And I think it's not just the Indiana fans that are excited. The players, the coaches, everybody around the program is excited to see what Indiana can do in year 2.
Yeah, Curt Cignetti, I said this earlier. Curt Cignetti likes to make statements. Of course, he likes to make them verbally, but he also likes to make them non-verbally. And I don't know if I'm not going to say that's the foremost thing on his mind this week, but I don't think it's ever far from his mind, because he's always looking at the big picture as well. And he knows that while Ohio State can, or Texas, either one, they can both lose this. Either one can lose the game that they have this weekend, and it will have virtually no effect on their season. Indiana does not have that luxury against Old Dominion, much less anybody else either. So they know not only do they have to win, but they need to win in ways that gets the attention of people, because for whatever reason, even though Indiana returns all that they return, even though they brought in a guy that Mel Kiper thinks could be the top pick in the NFL draft, and that they have an All-American at wide receiver, they have an all Big Ten running back. None of that seems to matter. They just keep getting like, okay, we'll see. Pete Thamel, there's a story at thehoosier.com today that Pete Thamel is one of the only national pundits that I have personally seen put Indiana into the college football playoffs. I think that they make that return trip. I think that they'll go 10-2, to be honest with you. But and not saying that they can't do better than that. But boy, it's a lot of attention's been on Illinois.
Yeah, there's a lot of Illinois talk about Illinois being this year's Indiana, but Illinois is not the losingest program in college football history, so there's not exactly a comparison in that kind of department there. And Illinois can't be this year's Indiana because Illinois has too high expectations. Indiana had no expectations last year, but that's
maybe they
the point.
can because they sure have a schedule that is easy pickings, baby. Indiana is one of only 2 ranked teams on their entire schedule.
I'm just saying from a standpoint of Indiana went into the last season with 0 expectations. Illinois, you can't be a preseason ranked team and be some sort of underdog. You can't be a preseason number 12 team in the country and be an
coming off of a
underdog
10-win season, no less.
Exactly. But to get back to your point, Indiana, there's always going to be doubters. And I think this year is a year of proving those doubters wrong. Obviously, Indiana's probably not going to admit that. They're going to go out there, play with that same chip on their shoulder, go win 9, 10 games, whatever it may be. But this year, from the outside perspective, is about proving those doubters wrong because there's still plenty of doubters. There's still plenty of people that think, maybe Indiana does what they did in 2021. Maybe they suck again this year. Maybe last year was just lightning in a bottle. Maybe it was just a fluke and a one-hit wonder. Indiana this year is out to prove that that wasn't the case. And Curt Cignetti is out to prove that this can be a sustainable thing in Indiana. And this isn't just a one-off thing at an IU. He can really do this for years to come. And that's exactly what Indiana's looking to prove. And I think they'll have the chance to prove that. They have the schedule this year where if it's late in the season, Indiana's not going to be discredited for playing no ranked teams along the way. They'll have Illinois. They'll have at Iowa, at Penn State, at Oregon. They will have resume boosting opportunities this year on their schedule. Their schedule is going to be difficult. So I think that will help and go a long way in potentially proving people wrong. Indiana has their destiny in their own hands. If they go out there and beat these quality teams, these teams that everybody's ranking in the preseason top 15, then Indiana will prove these doubters wrong, and Indiana will prove that they do belong in the conversation amongst college football's elite.
Absolutely. And I'm still early on, I remember seeing that Indiana's schedule was ranked really low in the Big Ten. And I'm like, okay, how the hell are you all figuring this? Because they've got 3 top 10 teams on their schedule right now already. And 2 of those are on the road. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, 2 of those are on the road. And then there's a 3rd road game that I think Iowa has a very good chance of being ranked by the time you get to week 5 of the college football season.
Yeah, you're exactly right. This is not an easy schedule. I mean, you look at the home games outside of Illinois, there's probably not a game that Indiana's going to be favored by less than a touchdown in. I mean, Wisconsin, maybe. Michigan State, maybe. But realistically, when you're looking at these home games outside of Illinois, Indiana's going to be favored by a touchdown or more in pretty much all of them. But Illinois, number 12 team in the country preseason. Oregon, Penn State, on the road no less, top 10 teams in the country heading into the season. Iowa is going to be a good, strong team. They're going to go to a bowl game probably this year, 7, 8, 9 wins probably for the Hawkeyes, which is pretty much what they do every year, plus that game's on the road. The issue with looking at strength of schedule already this season, I mean, if you went into last year, Jim, Indiana had the reigning national champion in Michigan on their schedule and the reigning runner-up in Washington on their schedule. And obviously those teams turned out to not be so good, and those teams weren't necessarily adding to Indiana's strength of schedule. So maybe we go into this year, Illinois looks like it could be a quality opponent for Indiana. Maybe everything falls off the wagon for Illinois this year, and Luke Altmaier struggles, and Illinois realistically goes 6-6 or something like that. I'm just throwing out
how Nebraska did last year.
Exactly. But just throwing out hypotheticals, you can't look at the strength of schedule right now because the strength of schedule is going to fluctuate. It's going to roller coaster up and down throughout the entire season as each of these teams on Indiana schedules loses games. Maybe Oregon and Dante Moore, they aren't good. Maybe Dante Moore isn't the quarterback. He isn't the successor to Dylan Gabriel. And maybe Oregon just isn't as good as everybody thought they would be. You just never know at this point in the season. These preseason rankings, it's difficult to say. But I will digress. From a preseason standpoint, heading into the season, looking at things where things stand now, yes, Indiana's strength of schedule does look like it will be more difficult. Of course, we just never know. I mean, one of these teams could turn out to not be good at all, and that doesn't really add much to Indiana's strength of schedule. We won't know until the end of the season.
Actually, the question is, will some of these teams be better, like Wisconsin, that's on the schedule later in the year, second to last game? UCLA. UCLA's expectations has to be higher this year. They've got Tino Sunseri and Nico Imaleven at quarterback. I always call him Imaleven. Someone gave him that nickname a while back, and I love it. So that's going to be interesting, though. UCLA is a team that got better throughout the season last year. And now they've added valuable pieces at the offensive coordinator, at quarterback. As bad as his tenure started out at UCLA, I've got to give, and I can't think of his name right now, the coach. What's the coach's name at UCLA? I'm drawing a blank, but are you drawing a blank?
Who are you talking about?
The coach at
Deshaun
UCLA.
Foster?
Yes,
Foster?
Deshaun Foster. As bad as his tenure started out at UCLA with the blunder at Big Ten Media Day, letting everybody know that UCLA was in Los Angeles, California. Thank you for that. The University of California, Los Angeles is what UCLA stands for. But it went upwards. I mean, the week after playing Indiana, they were tied with LSU at the half. And their season was not great, but it got better. And I was really impressed, to be honest with you, with the job that he did under all that strain that they put themselves under. Michigan State, are they going to be better this year? But the first half of this season is the opposite of last year. Last year, easy 6-0 start, an 8-0 start. Saw that coming. Boy, we're going to know something immediately. And this game is more important for Illinois, I think, than it is for Indiana. Not that Indiana can lose it, because I think that they have to win every game. Indiana has no margin for error because of the perception that's in people's heads. But Illinois, because of their schedule, because they only play 2 ranked teams, you lose to Indiana off the bat, you're kind of done, in my opinion, because I don't care if you go 11-2. If Indiana also goes 10-2, if Indiana were to also go 10-2, and with a win over Illinois, boom, one's out, one's in. So very important game for both of these teams when it gets there.
Hey, you bring up a good point there. And another wrinkle to this kind of strength of schedule talk is the strength of record discussion. Obviously, the College Football Playoff Selection Committee announced that they'd kind of lean more into the strength of record and kind of that kind of aspect of kind of the season and the analytics when they are making their decisions later on this year in December. And Indiana's strength of record last year, it was phenomenal. They were number 8, Indiana, in strength of record last season heading into the college football playoff. And I think that's kind of an underrated topic of discussion. Indiana last year, the average margin of victory was such a big piece to Indiana's resume, and it could be again this year. If Indiana goes out there and wins their non-conference games by 50 and maybe beats Illinois by multiple scores, that's kind of a big piece for Indiana, because you think last year that 56-7 win against Nebraska, that's a big deal in the eyes of the committee when you can go out there and beat a team that a lot of people are picking to perhaps upset you in that week prior to that Nebraska game, and then Indiana went out and beat them by 49. Strength of record, margin of victory, that stuff does matter. Maybe not as much, well, obviously not as much as actually winning or losing the game, but if Indiana can go out there and win some of these games against the likes of a UCLA, against Michigan State, against Wisconsin, some of those games that they will be favored in, if they can not just win those games by a touchdown or 10, 13 points, if they can go out there and win those by 3-4 scores, that would also go a long way in kind of adding to Indiana's resume come the end of the season.
Yeah, and that is not lost to Curt Cignetti. Like I said earlier, he likes to make statements verbally and non-verbally, but he also knows the score. He knows what people think of Indiana. Now, he doesn't really care about that per se, but he does know that things have to be done. That just like when he came here, the thoughts by the fans, that had to be changed. Everything has to be changed. We'll see Saturday with a game against Old Dominion at 2:30 on opening week. What are the fans thinking? How much support is there? Do I expect this to be a sellout? No, I don't. But if it's any less than 3/4 or 80%, that should be a grave disappointment to Indiana. I know that it's going to take a long time to erase being the worst program in Division I history. They are no longer that. They don't have the most losses in Division I history anymore. I think that is now Northwestern, maybe. I have to let somebody else Google that. But they're not in that. You can't say that about Indiana anymore, and it doesn't matter. None of that past stuff matters. It's today, it's the here, it's the now. And Curt Cignetti wants to sustain. He's going to be here for another 8 years on top of this season. So he not only does he want to sustain, he wants to be in that conversation with Ohio State, with Alabama, with Georgia, with Michigan. He wants every year that when this stuff comes out, Indiana's a thought, even though maybe they shouldn't be, as some of these teams are.
And what makes Curt Cignetti different is it's not just a want. It's not just a desire. He needs to be in that conversation. That is that's just innate about who Curt Cignetti is. He needs to be in those conversations. He needs to be successful. He has been successful everywhere he's gone. And it's not just I want to be good with Indiana. I want to build something that's sustainable here. Curt Cignetti needs to build something sustainable here. He's looking to build, his resume as a coach throughout his college career that has been successful and has won every single place that he's gone. And it's just who he is. He is a winner. That's just how it is. That's what his teams have been. That's who he is. That's always been the case. And so I think that's kind of different about Curt Cignetti. He doesn't want to go out there and go back to the college football playoff. That's just who he is. He just does that kind of thing because that's who he is as a coach and as a winner. Curt Cignetti is just simply that. He is a winner. He's done it everywhere he's gone, and that's not going to change here at Indiana because of who Indiana has been in the past. It's Curt Cignetti's time now. It's the Curt Cignetti era, as you mentioned, Jim. Everything else in the past can kind of just be thrown aside again. There's still concerns that this year could be 2021, but again, this year there's just not that same complacency. There's just not the same mindset. The demeanor is different. The talent level is different. There's just things that are different from 2021 that make this year's team different from that team that obviously disappointed so many IU fans that year.
Absolutely. What challenges will Old Dominion present to Curt Cignetti and this Indiana football team on Saturday?
Well, Curt Cignetti knows the Sun Belt well, and this is a Sun Belt team that obviously played South Carolina close last year. If you haven't seen or heard or read about that, then you're probably living under a rock. Curt Cignetti has been beating that drum for the last couple of days now that this is not a team that Indiana can overlook. Their quarterback is talented, and he throws a couple of wrinkles at you. Colton Thompson, the quarterback for Old Dominion, he's a skilled enough passer to make you pay. Colton Joseph, excuse me. He's a skilled enough passer to make you pay if you bust in coverage. He's athletic enough to use his legs. He's fast. He's really fast in a straight line to use his legs. The running game, it's an inexperienced running back room for Old Dominion. The pass catchers, I think the number was there's 2 guys on the team, running backs, tight ends, and receivers that caught a pass a year ago. So a very inexperienced running or wide receiver room, a lot of JUCO guys there. But then there's a lot of guys on defense that return, and you can't really talk about anybody else than Jason Henderson. He led the country in tackles in 2023, was hurt pretty much all of last season, but he is an Aiden Fisher caliber linebacker. He is literally an All-American. He's a 2-time All-American, not just at the FCS level, but the FBS level. He is an All-American caliber linebacker at the FBS level. Jason Henderson is. So he's a guy like Aiden Fisher you kind of have to game plan against. You have to know where he is. He's a game wrecker. He can force fumbles. He can help out in pass coverage. He can help out in run stopping. But this is a talented Old Dominion team. They're well coached. Curt Cignetti knows this. This is a Sun Belt team that you can't just kind of gloss over. This is probably over the last 2 years of the Curt Cignetti era, the most difficult non-conference game Indiana's going to play. Not to say that they won't beat them by 2 or 3 or 4 scores, but out of FIU and Indiana State and Kennesaw State and all the teams in Indiana has played last year and will play this year on their non-conference slate, Old Dominion is probably the toughest out of all those teams. So Curt Cignetti knows that, and he has preached that Indiana and his team cannot overlook this ODU squad.
I agree, my friend. Zach Browning with thehoosier.com. Make sure you follow Zach and go to thehoosier.com. If you do not have a subscription yet, you are missing out. Complete coverage of all IU athletics, recruiting for basketball and football. $1 just to check it out, 50% off for the year. And it comes with a free subscription to The Athletic and some other things like get deals at the Academy Sports and outdoors and all kinds of other things. Zach, appreciate you, brother. We'll see you on Saturday.
Thank you so much for having me, Jim. I'm looking forward to this weekend.
Can't wait. You and me as both, buddy. And thanks to each and every one of you guys. Appreciate you. We're back tomorrow to do it again. Coach Griff will be with us. We'll see what else we can scare up. Course at full load for tomorrow. We're back. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on
Thanks
the
for
radio.
listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.